students, welcome back. In this episode, we are looking at CSS styling. Okay, CSS is more of styling, and today we are looking at the 3 ways to insert CSS in your projects. Okay, so in CSS, there are 3 core concepts of styling. It could be inline styles, internal style sheets, or an external style sheet. And we will take our time to analyze all these 3 core concepts and understand it better, both in theory and in practicals. All right. So in this episode, we will take our time to understand the inline styling better. Then we proceed just like that. All right. So what is an inline styling? An inline style may be used to apply a unique styles for a single element. So all what you are trying to mean is that, let's say you are working on a project which have a multiple lines of code, but you want to style a particular portion of the project. You don't want to style the whole thing. You don't want to write a whole CSS code for the whole project. Let's say you finish the project, but there's a particular section that you want to apply some maybe changes. You want to change the look of that particular section. You can use an inline to do that, and it is equally accepted. So to use inline styles, add the styles attributes to the relevant element. The styles attributes can contain any CSS properties, which is very, very true. So you don't have to write a whole style sheet for an inline styling, but you only have to write that line of code to that particular relevant element, as I explained before. Okay, don't worry. This is the theory side. When you go to the practical, which you have to do with the coding, you will get it better. All right. So without much ado, let's start work on our project, coding, and let's explain it better in that dimension. All right. So now let's start with a project folder. Okay. All right. So I'll create my project folder. I would like to name my project folder CSS practice, and I'll open my test editor, which is my Sabine test. I will go by the traditional way and drag my project folder inside my Sublime test. Okay. Now you can do Control or Command O on Mac, then you do the same, all right? Or you can drag and drop the traditional way. Now let's move on. This is just like your HTML project. You know how we start with it, right? So now we have to save this particular file. So we do Command S, or you can come to your Sublime test file, then you come to save as. Okay, so now from here, you have to locate your project folder, which is on desktop. Then CSS practice. Then we give it a name. Let's call it index.html. We are still working on HTML, okay? We are using CSS practice, but we are working on HTML. As HTML and CSS, they go hand in hand. Now let's build our basic HTML templates, okay? This needs to be explained, okay, because I know you understand it better. All right, so this basic HTML template, I don't have to explain it. So if you don't understand it, it means you have to go back to your HTML project and please learn more, okay, and come back. So I'll call my title web projects, okay. Now let's do some h1 tag. So inside that h1, let's say this is our heading, and let's get some p tag, which is the paragraph, and let's generate some random text called a lowing isum. Okay, lowing isum. Lowing isum is just a random text that programmers, when you need a text for something, we just generate it, okay, and later we put in the actual content. So you can, as a programmer, you can also do likewise. Now, before anything, let's save it and let's open it in the browser and let's see how it turns. There we go. So this is pure HTML. Okay. So now we are going to see how inline styling also works. Okay. Let's bring us to this page. Coming back to our slide, we can see that what it says what an inline styles may be used to apply a unique styles for a single element. Okay. So to deal with an inline, we need what? A style. And what? To use an inline styles, add a style attribute to a relevant element. The style attributes can contain any CSS property. Now let's get a style and let's see how we can apply it to our inline element. Coming back to our code, this element, this is the h1 element that I want to apply the inline styles. Okay, so it says we have to start with what? A styles attribute. Okay, so a style is a CSS, and CSS deals with style. So we will start with a style attribute, and we will call what the property and the value. I hope you can recall. All right. We say color, and we call it blue, and it ends with what, a semicolon. Here there can be a space or not, it will work. All right. So make sure you follow the steps. So we says what? All what we did was a styles with what, a property. This is a declaration. So in the declaration, we said we want a color of blue. So the color is the property and the value is the what? The blue. Now let's save it and head back to our browser. Refresh. We can see that our H1 has turned into blue. Okay, this is an inline style. Now we can add more properties as is stated here. You can see it from here. He said the styles attributes can contain any CSS properties, any. So for instance, now we have our first property here. We can add more. So for instance, we can do margin. Let's say margin left property. Then I'll give it like 50 pixels, ending it with a semicolon, and refresh. We can see that there is a margin here. Okay. In a case you did not take note of that, let me increase it. For this one, you get it. Let me make it 150 pixels. Head back to our browser and refresh. We can see, okay, this is the margin. So we can write any CSS or many CSS properties to it. Now let's apply some styles to our p tag, which is our paragraph. All right, so remember this is the selector now. So the H1 or the p tag. Now what we need is for the styles, and this time let's give it a background color of orange. Save it, head towards our browser and refresh. And you can see that we have changed the entire background color. Okay, so that is that of the inline styling. If you're working on a project and you want to style it inline, this is how you go about it. But on a more serious note, it is not a good practice to style all your project inline. In fact, it will be kind of boring because let's say you are working on a real life project that you have about 50,000 lines of code. Are you going to style them individually like this? No, you can't do that. Okay, so then how will you do that? Okay, that is our next lesson, which is what the internal styling or the internal style sheets. All right, so let's end here. Come back on our next tutorial and learn how to style internal. Thank you.